Greetings and hallucinations, ladies and lads. I am Chancellor of the harmonious frequencies of the mighty empire of Onion, and this is Factorio. Well, you may be able to recognize right away that there is no game audio. I'm actually recording this voiceover separately because apparently OBS forgot my audio settings. There wasn't a new update. I didn't install a new version of OBS or anything like that. It worked just fine yesterday. I didn't change anything, and then today it just didn't record my voice audio or my game audio. So, tragic. We got a lot accomplished in this episode, so I don't feel comfortable with going back and re-recording it or anything like that. Also, I saved over the old save anyway, so I would have had to start over at like an autosave or something, and that would have been like in the middle of the episode, which would have been super weird. Yeah. Lots of things happening. Yeah, I was actually trying to upload a video last night when I went to sleep, and my computer decided it wanted to restart to install updates and stuff like that for my computer. So maybe that's what messed up the audio for OBS, but I didn't figure that a computer update would change settings in my recording software. But yeah, that's the only thing that I can figure out that would have changed anything. Oh, so yeah, the video didn't get uploaded on time. I've been trying to get it to upload all day, and it's still having trouble. But hopefully that will be uploaded and ready to publish on Wednesday. It's the last 1 hour, 1 life video that'll be out for a while. So it's kind of important to me to have it out there. Man, yeah, we got into the game. I was running around like a lunatic. Checked out the map to see how our pollution is doing and see if we are surrounded by any kind of biters. Of course, there are biters out there, but our pollution hasn't quite reached most of the places. There is a spot over to the right there that I'm a little bit worried about. I was also worried about the oil pickup not being fully defended. I feel like on the right side of it, above the coal, would be another good place to put guns. And it may eventually be necessary to put more guns on the right side of the base as well, beyond the copper deposit there. So I'm looking around right now for the iron deposit. We saw it down there at the bottom right. We will eventually have to get a train going and run that up to the top here. We still have quite a lot of iron available up here. I can't remember exactly how much it was. I moused over it eventually, but apparently not when I was looking at it this time. I decided to move these guns out of the way because they weren't serving the purpose that I needed them to in this position, and I needed this area for future production. My plan for this episode was to get the blue production, or no, the blue science packs automated, so that we could start researching things that require them. And yeah, since this is where the oil comes in at, this is where I figured we would be producing more of those things. And move these guns up here so that they could protect the oil a little bit better. And then I add some more a little bit later on. Not sure exactly how this episode is going to go, because this is the first time I've ever had to voiceover record. Usually it's just works, you know? So this is going to be a new experience for me. I hope it turns out okay. So this is where I start building the oil refineries. Getting ready to plop those down so that we can work on producing those blue science packs. We will need plastics and sulfur and all that good stuff for those. The plastic is for advanced circuits, of course. And the sulfur is just for the science packs. This, of course, is a new change with this update. They didn't used to require sulfur, so a little bit different recipe for producing them than what we were used to from the last time. But that's perfectly fine. Like the military science packs, I feel like it may be a little bit cheaper than what it used to be. So it's actually pretty beneficial. I did do a shout out as well to Kate Gris for gifting me the game. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but yeah, she does have her own YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out, be sure to give that a try if you have time. Um, some of her videos are in French, but a few of them are in English, so yeah, be sure to check her out. I have the link in the video description, I believe, and I will try to remember to include it in the cards as well. So here I go, adjusting the delivery system for the military research packs, trying to shorten it up a little bit, and get them on the side of the belt. I'm actually going to adjust this even further once we get the blue science packs produced. I keep forgetting what the names of them are. Like, the military one's easy to remember, but there's like production science packs and utility science packs, and I think that's purple and yellow. I cannot remember what the blue ones are. We'll see if I mouse over them later on. So we got a lot of research done in this episode too, actually. Yeah, I'm going for the train signals there, which you'll probably remember I don't know how to use. I tried and tried in the last playthrough to get those to work, and it never quite did. So I may just have to avoid crossing train tracks once we do get into carting things around. So it took me a while to figure out where I wanted the refineries, and as you can see here, I actually hooked it up wrong at the beginning. I didn't realize that it was so specific about where it wanted the oil to come in at. And here I'm building a pump because I know that some of the processing requires water, so I know I'm going to have to eventually pipe it up there. I also checked on the electricity production. We're doing pretty good still. At the end of the episode, I checked again, and we are still doing pretty good. I was talking about adding some in at the bottom there, whenever we do need to eventually expand it. We're getting pretty close to energy accumulators too, so I'm thinking about getting some solar panels set up eventually, once we do have batteries that can hold charge through the night. So here I'm setting up the chemical plant. The refinery, though, still isn't hooked up correctly, so I will eventually have to move that to get it working properly. I also got a mix-matched a little bit on how I wanted the chemical plants to be producing and on which side, out of which refinery and all that kind of stuff, so a bit of adjustments that I had to make here. I'm finding out that it's not plugged in correctly. Yeah, so I just get that moved over and plugged in so that it works. Yeah, so now it's plugged in properly, and I have a power pole there, hopefully to power both things there. Yep, it does reach, so that's fantastic. And here I tell it to produce plastic just to see what is required, but eventually I'll swap this one over to sulfur production because it's closer to the water, and sulfur does require water in order to be produced. So I go ahead and hook it up. It's all running and everything like that, but I'll end up changing my mind a little bit later on. Yeah, I got the coal piped into it, so now it's producing plastic properly. That's all good. And then I hook this refinery up, and this is when I figure out that the sulfur requires water, and so I swap them around, adjust the coal belt over to feed into the plastic, and then yeah, make other small adjustments and things like that. Researching, kind of thought about it for a little while and figured that the purple research is probably what we really need to go for next. So now I've got the water pumping in, and the chemical plant is producing sulfur now. Wonderful. So I'm taking a look at the science pack. Looks like trying to figure out what we need for that. It's the chemical science pack, looks like, so that makes sense with all of the oil refinery and stuff like that that has to go into it. Did I say stuff like that enough times? I think I did. More research into the modules, and I've decided that the copper production is not sufficient for our needs, So I add in a furnace there and take a look at it as it's going. Still looks a little bit sparse to me. So I decide to do some more research and then repurpose this lower furnace to smelt copper instead of stone, like I did before. I actually broke the belt there to the stone production and don't realize it until way later in the episode. So I actually run out of stone bricks and walls for the military production, military science production, I mean. So here we're running copper up and around because copper is necessary for the electronic circuits and stuff like that. I shortened up the copper a bit because I didn't think I needed quite that much up there. Trying to figure out how to get iron on the other side of the coal belt was a fun little challenge. I start making things look a little bit crazy around here. You can already kind of see it with the engine, the way that the engine is produced, with those snaky belts and stuff like that. So here I go winding around up underneath the coal and iron belts. Made a little bit of room and it works out just fine. Like I say, it's not pretty, but it does get the job done. Looking around through the research again, I decided to go with the modular armor just to have something to research. I think I'm trying to use up all of the researches that require just red and greens first. I wasn't really thinking too hard about it, but that was most of my purpose. And I decided to go ahead with 3 assemblers making copper cables and just 1 making the circuits. I figured that's probably a pretty good ratio, and later on it turns out that I'm making a lot more copper cables than I really probably need. I could likely settle with just 2 assemblers making copper cables, and that would probably be efficient. But yeah, I do keep the 3 going for at least this episode. I was talking about adding in another green research structure, because as you could see there, I was out of green research, and now I'm trying to figure out how to output the sulfur and plastic. I decided to put it underneath the coal belt there and hook it up so that they're running on the same belt. I feel like this is going to make it a little bit easier to hook everything up the way that it needs to be. And I do actually change my mind a little bit on the arrangement of things here later, because it becomes pretty apparent that we're going to need at least 2 assemblers constructing the chemical research packs in order to have a decent amount of production. Kind of like with the military research, they produce 2 packs for each execution, but it's still incredibly slow. And I also discovered that 1 advanced circuit assembler isn't quite enough either, so I end up going for 2 of those as well. The filter inserter here is just to pull the sulfur off the line so that we can get it directed to the assembler there, as you can see. Then yeah, trying to get the engine's output and hooked up to the assembler also. Yeah, I was talking about lining those up, and I was saying that it was impossible to put in another green one. And then I changed my mind and I said, well, if I just move it over by 1, that will solve the issue. So I did it right there and added in 1 extra green research assembler. So that's working out now. And the engines, I decided just to output them like this for now. This is before I decided that I will need 2 assemblers producing science packs, the chemical science packs. I think this is the point at which I am sort of discussing it with myself, trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to go about changing all of this. Yeah. So I swapped those around so that the advanced circuits and the sulfur are on the same belt. Makes it easier to line things up. I don't need a long-handed inserter to insert the necessary materials into the assembler machine, so that's good. And then got that producing at a pretty decent pace. But as you can see, the assembler for the chemical science packs are using up the advanced circuits almost as fast as they can be produced. They're backing up slightly, but not enough to support two productions. So here I've got these outputting onto the wrong side of the belt now, onto the far side, and so I have to adjust that a little bit in order to get it to work properly. And there I've got it coming in on the correct side now, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I deleted that part of the belt because, well, obviously I needed to output in a different spot. So I ran the belt around underneath the engines, and yeah, everything has access to everything that it needs, which is perfect. Running these underneath, I decided just in case I extend the iron plates there, I might as well go further than what it appeared. At this point I realized these are going to come in and do the wrong thing. I wanted them to be on the same belt as the military research, as I have them now, but I realized that having them underneath the belt and coming in on the same side as the military research would mess things up. So I decided to go ahead and research some military items so that we could use up the military science packs that were existing on the belt already, and then yeah, that way we could run the belt around and all of the labs will have access to both of the sciences. So here I was worried about the oil pumps, the pump jacks, pumping too much. I wasn't sure if once the containers are full, if the pump jacks would actually stop or if they would just continuously pump oil. And here I'm taking a look at the advanced oil processing because I couldn't figure out why we weren't getting heavy and light oils out of the refiners already. So the advanced processing is how that actually takes place. At this point I've decided that I want explosives, so I go ahead and build a chemical lab and check to see what it needed before we got started, and decided that this was probably the best place to put it. It has access to sulfur and coal like it needs, and then I can just hook up the water no problem to the side here once I get some pipes produced and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we've got the water piped in now, and it is producing explosives. Perfect. I'm building them actually so that we can make cliff explosives, and I can clear out some cliffs along the way. I decided that this needs more protection, so I put these 3 guns in here, walled them off, and I load them up with ammo a little bit later on. There I checked the power again to make sure that we weren't overdrawing on that. So that was good. This is when I remembered that the belt needed to be repaired. Or didn't remember, I realized at that time, because I didn't know that it was wrong in the first place. I don't remember building those guns and putting them there, but there they were without any bullets. And now I've loaded up all of these guns with bullets. This one was annoyingly not lined up, and it turns out that the lowest one is actually not lined up with the top one. So I just moved that one out by 1, and then left this gun where it was since it's kind of on the corner anyway. No big deal. Here, yeah, I'm trying to pick up blocks, stone blocks, just because I want them. And I go ahead and clear the belt of the rest of the military research so that all the labs have access to all the research now. And that should be good. Well, eventually, once I get started on the purple and yellow, I believe it's production and utility science packs, respectively, then I'll have them running on a separate belt and inserted by long-handed inserters. So yeah, I went ahead and built some cliff explosives. They're actually a lot of fun. We're going to test them out right here. And it's a bit of a shame that there's no audio because the explosions are really satisfying, but they sound pretty similar to grenades, just so that you have an idea. And we will play with them more later on, because like I say, we're going to eventually need to bring iron up here from that one deposit, and we'll need to blow up cliffs in order to get the train tracks through. So there we go. It actually blows up a huge section of cliffs, a lot bigger than what I had anticipated. So that was a really satisfying experience there. Here I'm just kind of overlooking everything, seeing what we had produced and all that, and doing my outro. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope it's not horrible to look at and listen to with the weird voiceover, and I'm going to have to really do some work editing this to match up the voiceover audio with the video. I'll probably speed up the video. You guys will know when you watch it. But yeah, that's it for this episode. If you want to catch another one, be sure to subscribe. Consider supporting my channel through the Patreon link down in the video description, and feel free to check out any of my other videos or playlists that you might be interested in. I thank you so much for all the time that you spend on my channel, and I hope blessings of wisdom and peace on all of you. Farewell.